Good evening and welcome. You're watching this weekend's edition of Primetime News, coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. My name is Tarusha Kumar Singha. Up first in your top stories this evening.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Rate of COVID-19 deaths above the age of 60 increases. 900 deaths reported at home. If quarantine curfew regulations are not enforced, there is a risk of the virus spreading to other provinces as well. A warning from medical specialists.
බසාර පළාතෙන් එපිටට මේ ගමන් බිමන් යාමට පටන් ගැනීමත් සමගම අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම තුරු පළාත් තුලත් දැඩි විදියට මේක පැතිරීමේ අවධානමක් තියෙනවා.
How was information of the NMRA wiped clean from the government cloud? Several factions demand for the truth to be revealed to the people.
මේක අර බොන්ඩ් ස්කෑම් එක වගේ data scam එකක්.
Plans to construct a section of the jogging track for the Mahasangha to inspect. State Minister Siripala Gamlat says if they are not satisfied, the project will be suspended.
දැන් යෝජනාවක් දෙනවා මීටර 20ක් වගේ ප්‍රමාණයක් අපි මේක නිර්මාණය කළ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේලාට පෙන්නලා අපි මේ කටයුත්ත පිළිබඳ දැනුවත් කරනවා කියලා.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
As it was mentioned in your headlines for tonight, the rate of COVID-19 deaths among those in the age category above the age of 60 continues to increase. According to the information released by the Epidemiology Unit of the Ministry of Health, the percentage of COVID-19 deaths among this age group by the 20th of this month stood at 77.4%.
The number of people who died of COVID-19 while in their homes has increased to 900. 155 COVID-19 patients died at home during the week that ended on the 20th of this month. 427 people had died of COVID-19 while being hospitalized. 65 people had died of COVID-19 while being hospitalized during the week that ended on the 20th. Among the COVID-19 fatalities in the country, 722 people had received one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, while 137 people had received both doses of the vaccine. According to the information released by the Epidemiology Unit, 74 people who received both doses of the vaccine had died of COVID-19 during the week that ended on the 20th of this month. A request to register a drug that could reduce the number of COVID-19 deaths.
Specialist doctors have focused their attention on an antibody combination that saves lives of COVID-19 patients and has already been approved for emergency use in several other countries. The Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists has pointed out that members of the organization have noticed high mortality among vulnerable groups such as transplant recipients and certain patients who have not developed antibodies due to other reasons. The College of Pulmonologists also pointed out that these patients block ICU beds for prolonged periods, putting a severe strain on the resources. In a letter to the chairman of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority, the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists said that going by the evidence available in literature, they believe that casirivimab-imedivimab antibody combination would help curtail the high mortality rates among selected patient groups. The letter notes that the drug, also known as Regencov, has already received emergency approval from the US FDA, the European Union, as well as the United Kingdom and Japan. The Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists has requested the chairman of the NMRA to expedite the registration of this drug in Sri Lanka and facilitate the availability of the drug for use in deserving patients. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa in a tweet said that it would be prudent for the Sri Lankan government to obtain the opinion of relevant experts and go ahead with the procurement of this life-saving drug, Regencov. In his tweet, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa said, quote-unquote, "My friends in the USA tell me that this is considered a wonder medicine that has saved the lives of many by preventing the worsening of the illness." When we inquired on this matter from the chairman of the National Drugs Regulatory Authority, Dr. Rasitha Vijayavantha, he said that the Committee on COVID-19 at the NMRA had rejected the registration of this drug. He added that this was rejected as there were insufficient factors on the efficacy of this drug. However, the drug Regencov has already received approval to be used in India, the United States, the European Union, the United Kingdom and Japan.
The supply of oxygen. The Secretary to the State Ministry of Production, Supply and Regulation of Pharmaceuticals, Dr. Saman Ratnayaka, said that a decision has been reached to import 300 metric tons of oxygen from India every week. He said that the daily oxygen requirement needed for COVID-19 patients in Sri Lanka is 140 metric tons. There are two companies that produce oxygen in Sri Lanka and their maximum daily capacity is 78 metric tons. Before the pandemic hit, the daily consumption of oxygen at hospitals in Sri Lanka was only 18 metric tons.
During the past 2 months, with the increase in the number of patients in the country, the daily consumption of oxygen in hospitals increased to 140 tons. We had to use the oxygen in the reserves at these two companies as well as the hospitals. We have now brought down 460 tons of oxygen from India. We are due to receive a few hundred tons of oxygen in the coming days.
Vaccination drive in the country continues.
According to the commander of the Sri Lanka Army, General Shavindra Silva, 60% of the population above the age of 30 in Sri Lanka have been vaccinated with both doses of the vaccine. The commander said that the remainder of the population will be inoculated with both doses by mid-September this year. Many vaccination centres across the island were in operation today as well. The vaccination centre at the Vihara Mahadevi Open Air Theatre, operated by the Sri Lanka Army, administered the vaccines to the general public today as well. According to our correspondent, the vaccination drive at the Vihara Mahadevi Open Air Theatre was carried out expeditiously and effectively today. The second dose of the Sinopharm vaccine was administered at the Anuradhapura Central College today, and long queues of people were seen at the vaccination centre. The administering of the second dose for those who are above the age of 30 commenced in Trincomalee today. According to our correspondent, the vaccination drive in Trincomalee has been in operation for 5 days. This was captured by our cameras at the vaccination centre located at the Tharuka Mandapaya Auditorium in Hinguragoda.
A warning from medical specialists.
The actual tally of COVID-19 infected patients per day is thrice as much as the tally of cases officially reported. The Delta variant spreads at a rapid pace at homes. This means the virus will spread and infect all family members of the patient. The issue here is, besides the patients who are hospitalized and are receiving care at home, many other patients are not in the system and are still at home. The lack of medical care for them is an issue. The virus is spreading quite fast at homes in the Western Province. This could result in a serious crisis if these infected patients spread the virus to the rest of the community as well. Despite a quarantine curfew currently in effect, we have noticed people are leaving their homes using essential services as an excuse. As a result, the number of cases in the Western Province is likely to increase further. The highest tally of cases of the Delta variant has been recorded in the Western Province. Another serious concern is that the residents of other provinces are at risk as well if people in the Western Province begin to travel across provincial borders. According to statistics, the Delta variant has spread in several areas up to a certain extent. Other provinces across the country could face the same situation that is currently seen in the Western Province in the next few weeks. As part of the medical staff, especially in the field of public health services, we recommend that the ongoing travel restrictions should be continued. Otherwise, other provinces will end up in the same situation as the Western Province in the near future.
plans to bring down tourists.
The Sunday Times reported that along with Israel, Sri Lanka will be inviting tourists from Russia and European countries. The report adds that plans are currently underway to fly in tourists from France in November. Israel is currently recording the world's highest daily infection rate, an average of nearly 7,500 confirmed cases a day, double what it was 2 weeks ago.
While those reports have come in on the COVID-19 situation in the country, the National Medicines Regulatory Authority, the body that grants approval to all medicines and medical equipment in the country, has had all of its data wiped clean from the Lanka government cloud. What went on there? Let's take a look.
The data scam.
Approval from the NMRA is mandatory before any medicine or piece of medical equipment is used in Sri Lanka. Approval granted for the use of these medicines and medical equipment is also renewed periodically by the NMRA. The NMRA completely digitized this approval process in the year 2018. The data of the NMRA was stored on the Lanka government cloud. The data of the NMRA on the cloud is managed by a private company, and recently all of this information was wiped clean from the government cloud. The Criminal Investigations Department has already launched an investigation into the incident, and several statements have been recorded.
The company named Epic Lanka provides us with these services. They say that this can be rechecked and that the data has not been lost. It is the mapping process that has been lost. They have asked us to support them in the recheck process of the government cloud. The ICT institution is the monitoring body for the rechecking process, and the Criminal Investigation Department together with the Moratuwa University are conducting this rechecking process. This incident has not stopped us from registering new drugs and essential drugs and equipment related to COVID-19. We continued these activities manually, so there is no need for any fear of a shortage of essential drugs.
ඒක නිසා කිසිම විදිහකට බියක් ඇති වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ අත්‍යවශ්‍ය ඖෂධ වර්ග හිග වෙනවා කියලා.
This is a data scam similar to the bond scam. The issues surrounding this matter will come out in the future as it continues to unravel. We don't know how this information got out, who took this information, what information was taken, and for what reason the information was taken out. We request the President to conduct a more swift investigation into this incident. This will become an issue of national security. When someone looks at this data wipe, any person will be left with a reasonable suspicion as to if this is the work of a medical drug mafia, and was this data deleted for such a reason. The State Minister in charge of pharmaceuticals, Channa Jayasumana, must reveal to the public what happened with this information at the next parliamentary sitting. We don't know if asking about this data scam from the State Minister would be futile. We believe that the government did this knowingly. When the government loses their system, the door opens for the medical mafia to carry out its scams. If the data system was compromised, there are 5 people who must be held accountable for this. First of all, the 4 people who know the password, and also the company Epic Lanka that was in charge of managing the information on this cloud. The issue we have is that we have still not received any reports that the CID has questioned any one of these parties. Is this data cloud not that important? Is it not that important to further the health policies of the country? Then why is the NMRA sending temporary registration applications to multinational companies and companies that import medicine to the country? Wasn't there a backup on this information on the cloud?
Is the deletion of such sensitive information stored on the Lanka government cloud not a threat to national security? Who are the people behind this?
The data scam.
More headline making news coming your way after this short commercial break. Stay tuned.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk.
Welcome back to the news. Former JVP parliamentarian Sunil Handunnetti criticized several decisions taken by the government in the face of the prevailing COVID-19 situation in the country. Sunil Handuneti expressed the following views in an online media briefing that was held at the party headquarters today.
The price of sugar.
The government issued a gazette imposing a maximum retail price for sugar in November last year. They said the maximum retail price must be at 85 rupees. This was the pinnacle of a massive tax scam. Because of the tax that was imposed on 1 kilo of sugar, many businessmen, especially the allies of the governing faction, were able to defraud money. The government promised the people that 90,000 metric tons of sugar are in storage facilities and that the price of sugar will not be amended until May this year. However, the maximum retail price was removed in April. Now the Minister of Consumer Protection says that his hands are tied even if the price of sugar is increased by 100 rupees. The 90,000 metric tons of sugar that was stored is being distributed and sold, keeping profits of 100 rupees to 120 rupees. Does this allude to the dollar crisis? Or is this a result of close allies of Gotabaya Rajapaksa's government hiding sugar and distributing it to the market, keeping high profits?
Why is the price of essential food items increasing?
The repercussions of this government's plan to create a trade monopoly for their close allies are being suffered by the consumers at present. A kilo of rice has increased to 200 rupees. A kilo of dal that was previously at 100 rupees eventually increased to 160 rupees. And now the selling price is at 260 rupees. A kilo of potato imported from India is being sold at 200 rupees and locally produced potato is being sold at 250 rupees. The price of a kilo of potato was previously at 140 rupees. A kilo of big onions that was sold at 100 rupees is now being sold at 130 rupees. A kilo of sprats was sold at 340 rupees. Now the wholesale price is 750 rupees and the retail price is 1,100 rupees. 1 liter of coconut oil that was sold at 380 to 400 rupees is now being sold at 750 rupees. They increased the price of fuel, gas, milk powder and the price of bakery items. This is the burden the consumer has to carry today. At a time where the government must provide concessions to the people, the government has increased the price of medicine as well. On what basis has the price of medicine been increased? We view this as a retaliatory move carried out by the Gotabaya Rajapaksa's government against the people, looking at the current situation in the market.
What is the priority of the government?
Many ministers of the government speak out now. We saw State Minister Ajit Niwad Kabral saying that the country should be opened up and the country cannot go forward in this manner. He said that the small man must be taken care of. But the government seemed to forget the small man when they increased the price of goods and medicines by issuing gazettes. So why is this government trying to open up the country? They are trying to open the country for the well-being of their close allies who assisted them to come into power.
They have
transformed this disaster into a business. The rise of cost of living has been turned into a scam as well. They are not going to provide relief for the public. But the government is keen on constructing a jogging track at the Parakrama Samudra. Walking and jogging tracks are needed for the country, but is that a priority at the moment? 1.8 billion rupees has been allocated for the purchase of 62 cabs for the ministry of the newly appointed Minister of Finance. Is that a priority? The government spent 700 million rupees to refurbish 2 stories on the BOI building. If these things are considered as priorities, why did the government reduce the 2,000 rupees given to Samurdhi beneficiaries in these turbulent times?
State Minister of Consumer Protection Lasantha Alagiyawanna raised concerns about the rise in the price of essential food items.
We cannot limit the price increase of sugar and rice to the price increase in the global market, nor the increase in the exchange rate of the dollar. This price increase is completely unfair and it's not a price increase that should happen at this stage. Steps have been taken to sell brown sugar through Satosa and cooperatives at a maximum retail price of 130 rupees with effect from next Wednesday. Steps were taken to seal 3 more warehouses for hoarding 600 metric tons of sugar. Following discussions with the Attorney General, we have decided that we will file a petition in court by next week against the owner of the warehouses for hoarding paddy and sugar. The maximum penalty at the Consumer Affairs Authority is 6 months of imprisonment. For the first time, we request that this punishment come into effect.
දඬුවම තමයි මාසයක සිර දඬුවමක්. ඉතින් අපි දැන් ඒක ප්‍රථම වතාවට මේ ඉහළම දඬුවම ලබා දෙන්න කියන එක අපි ඉල්ලීම් කරනවා. සීනි ආනයනකරුවන් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් 15ක් 20ක් විතර ඉන්නවා. අපි සාකච්ඡාවට ගණනාවක් කරලා තිබෙනවා.
We have carried out several discussions. However, they are not willing to do so. We are not saying that they should be doing social services. They disagree with this decision due to the appreciation in the dollar rate. Many containers that were brought down by violating import conditions are now at the port. The Trade Minister has obtained approval from the Cabinet of Ministers to provide these consignments of sugar to Satosa. Steps have been taken to reduce the retail price of white sugar from next week as well. However, if we announce plans now, we will not implement them without the interference of businessmen in the country.
ඒරිලා අපිට ඒ ක්‍රියාමාර්ග සාර්ථක කරගන්න පුළුවන්කමක් ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ.
If the tax concession was imposed, the rate of sugar sold at 110 rupees would be sold at 150 rupees or 160 rupees. The customers were provided relief to a certain extent. They cannot say that they were not. However, I agree that it was not 100%.
Minister of Trade Bandhan Gunawardhana is due to propose a rationing system for essential food items to Cabinet in response to the rapid increase in prices. The Sunday Times reported that the minister is due to table this proposal at the next Cabinet meeting. According to the report, the minister had confirmed that the proposal, once approved by the Cabinet, will be implemented through Satosa outlets where essential items including sugar will be rationed and provided at a cheaper rate. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the Vietmaga Advisory Board said that Sri Lanka will be developed and that the country will be picked up from the abysmal position that they were in. But what actually happened? We have fallen deep into the abyss. They are trying to give out essential food items to the people based on a token system like in the 1970s. A kilo of sugar is sold at 250 rupees and the tax is only 25 cents. A kilo of dal is 240 rupees. A tin of mackerel is 350 rupees. Prices of bakery items have increased. There is a shortage of gas and milk powder. The country is pushed back to the state it was in the 1970s.
Taking a look at another story that made it to your headlines tonight. Chairman of the Polonnaru District Coordination Committee, Amarakirti Atukorala, said that steps will be taken to build a 20-meter portion of the proposed jogging track along the banks of the Parakrama Samudra for the Mahasangha to inspect. But the Mahasangha, who visited the location today as well, said that they cannot approve of the construction of a jogging track when there are more pressing matters that need to be prioritized.
The government had planned to construct this jogging path for the public to release their mental stress in the evening. The honourable ministers along with us went there in the morning and inspected it. We did not see any damage to the banks of the Vavar. All of us agreed to construct a 20-meter stretch of this jogging track and see if there is any damage caused by this project. The people can decide if this is a good project or a bad one.
ජනතාවට තීරණය කරන්න පුළුවන් මේකෙන් හොඳක්ද වෙන්නේ නරකක්ද වෙන්නේ කියන එක
ඉදිරියේදී තව දවසකින් දෙකකින් ඒ සියලු අපේ මහා සංඝරත්නයේ
In a few more days we will invite all the Mahasangha, the farmers, area residents and professionals in the field and discuss this. We will continue based on the views that are expressed there. If the result of this is good and if the people and the Mahasangha are in favor of this, as the government we can complete this project fast if the government is allowed to continue. If the people are against this, I would like to clearly state that we will not carry out this project by force.
ජනතාව අකමැති නම් ඒ සඳහා මේ කවුරුත් කලබල වෙන්න එපා කියන එක තමයි ඒක අපි බලෙන් ඉදි කරන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක මේ අවස්ථාවේ පැහැදිලි කරනවා.
The Secretary of the Polonnaruwa Sasanarakshaka Balamandala, Venerable Kaduruwela Dhammapala, members of the Mahasangha, farmers as well as social activists visited the construction site of the jogging track along the banks of the Parakrama Samudra in Polonnaruwa this morning.
There is
a proposal now to build this jogging track along a 20-meter stretch so that they can show this to the Venerable Theras and that we will be informed about it. But we are not for this either. We would like to say construct this 20 meters on the other side of the bund. Not just 20 meters, even taking 700 meters is fine. But we cannot let this space be used. The country is desolate. We are barely getting by. Everyone is suffering in some way. We would like to ask if the construction of a jogging track is the priority of the country. How many other requirements are there in Polonnaruwa alone?
Attention was drawn to a water leak at the Parakrama Samudra.
This is the water leak that occurs through the banks of the Parakrama Samudra. The officials at the Department of Irrigation, the engineers, the directors and ministers must focus on. Instead of providing solutions to these issues, steps are being taken to destroy the banks of the Vawa to make way for a jogging track.
The Department of Archaeology has also given recommendations on the construction of this jogging track.
We have given a recommendation. This is a site under the Department of Irrigation. We have informed them to carry out this project subject to our recommendations. We inspect the site as well. The Vawa is under the purview of the Department of Irrigation and they are the institution that is responsible. If there are any archaeological artifacts, we will intervene. We have only given recommendations as this belongs to another institution. We have recommended against conducting deep excavations or any changes to the structure or current state of the Parakrama Samudra.
Director General of Archaeology, Senior Professor Anura Manatunga said that the Parakrama Samudra is under the purview and control of the Irrigation Department. He added that the Vawa has not been gazetted as an archaeological site. Professor Manatunga added that the bank of the Vawa had been renovated on a number of occasions and the rocks and sand removed from the banks of the Vawa were placed there a few decades ago and that they are of no archaeological value.
This is a national asset and a site of great archaeological importance. I am saying this to the general public of the country and for the attention of the leaders of our nation. Instead of protecting this Vawa, it is being destroyed.
Now, an explosion was reported near the United Arab Emirates has opened applications for tourist visas from all countries starting from the 30th of August. As per the new UAE travel guidelines, tourists will need to be vaccinated with one of the COVID-19 vaccine shots approved by the World Health Organization.
The Federal Authority for Identity and Citizenship and the National Emergency Crisis and Disasters Management Authority of the United Arab Emirates have announced that applications for tourist visas will be open to people from all countries provided that they are fully vaccinated with one of the WHO-approved COVID-19 vaccines. The decision applies to citizens of all countries, including those arrived from the previously banned countries such as Sri Lanka. Arriving passengers on tourist visa must take a mandatory rapid PCR test at the airport. The previous rules for unvaccinated, including exempted categories, remain in place. Meanwhile, Moderna, Covishield, Pfizer-BioNTech, Johnson & Johnson, Oxford AstraZeneca, Sinopharm and Sinovac remain as COVID-19 vaccines approved by the WHO.
Maintaining good mental health and well-being are of utmost importance during these turbulent times we are undergoing. We wrap up tonight's news by taking a look at the views expressed by Venerable Latmale Panyarathanathero in this regard during the Gammadda Damsavya program telecast on our sister channel Sirasa TV this morning. Good night.
අපි පාඩු දෙකක් ඇති කර ගත යුතු නේ.
We should not suffer two blows at the same time. Already we are suffering a loss at present, but we will lose the battle if we keep on contemplating on what is transpiring at present. We have a responsibility to accept the challenges coming our way and face them head on. This is the biggest challenge we have ever faced. Therefore, let us be mentally strong. Let this strength be the immunity that will prevent us from contracting the virus and puts the virus in an inactive state, even if it enters your system.
ඇතුල් වුවත් එය ඔබේ ශරීරය තුළ ක්‍රියාත්මක නොවන ප්‍රතිශක්තිකරණයක් බවට පත් කරගමු.